seems a thing off with Erica Kirk. What she is wearing seems a bit inappropriate to mourn your husband, who was literally taken out for the entire world to see. This woman is not grieving anything. She skipped straight to acceptance. This is most definitely PR, and they're using your grief for marketing. And the fact that Charlie Kirk's assassination is still being covered up, she is still walking around with the same security from September 10th, saying she's so excited for the new content that she'll be releasing. Isn't it strange how a widow stepped into the CEO role? She did 3 speeches already, one at a stadium. Charlie's family didn't even speak, and she's selling t-shirts. And is already hosting her dad, not to mention how they're still trying to cover up her ties in Romania.
You came here for the truth that the mainstream media is too terrified to touch. You came here for the answer to the most chilling question in modern political history. What really happened to Charlie Kirk? They gave you a simple story, a clear narrative, a lone, disgruntled killer, a tragedy, and a wife who promised to carry on the legacy. But if you're watching this, you already know the answer is a lie. The official report is a thin, translucent sheet draped over a colossal, grotesque truth. Because the moment Charlie Kirk was silenced, the political machine didn't pause to grieve. It executed a takeover, and the woman standing at the apex of that power play was his own wife, Erica Kirk. Tonight, we don't just ask questions, we connect the dots. We expose the texts, the emails, the dark money contracts, and the cold, calculated choreography that confirms Charlie Kirk was a liability who was neutralized, and his death was used as a launch pad for the very people he had begun to fight. The first sign that this was not a conventional tragedy was the immediate, unshakable sense of wrongness surrounding Erica Kirk's initial appearances. The public expects paralysis. They expect devastation. They expect the messy, unscripted collapse of authentic loss. What they got was a CEO, the composure, the almost serene sense of purpose. It was inappropriate to mourn your husband, who was literally taken out for the entire world to see. The very fabric of our presentation lacked the raw, visceral agony of a woman whose world had just been obliterated. The verdict online was immediate and savage. This woman is not grieving anything. She skipped straight through acceptance. This wasn't resilience. This was ruthless efficiency. The narrative of the grieving widow, usually a spontaneous outpouring of sympathy, was in this case weaponized and deployed with surgical precision. It was PR. It was marketing. It was a hostile legacy framing operation where they're using your grief for marketing. The question was, who was the director of this macabre theater?
Into this vacuum of legitimate inquiry stepped the only voice with the reach and the lack of corporate tether to challenge the entire structure, Joe Rogan. When Rogan spoke, the entire matrix of the official story began to tear. He didn't just suggest doubt, he dropped the full weight of his authority, insisting that the entire official story was off. Rogan's analysis was structural. It wasn't just a timing, a confluence of financial pressure and political upheaval. It wasn't just a weak, pathetic explanation. It was the evidence itself. Rogan noted that the evidence that was released wasn't really clear. It was partial. It was contradictory. It was managed. His term for the entire event became the conspiracy's defining phrase. Everything seemed strangely orchestrated. This wasn't a botched investigation. This was a deliberate performance. But the real shockwave, the detail that sent the internet into overdrive, was Rogan's focus on the family dynamic. He alleged that Erica Kirk's behavior had become inexplicably distant from Charlie's own blood family. Think about that. In a moment of shared, shattering trauma, she allegedly created a schism. Why? Because the truth, the messy, dangerous truth of Charlie's final days could not be shared. Erica was allegedly not being completely honest with Charlie's parents about what was really going on behind the scenes at Turning Point America. Street hustler tone, 50 Cent style. This deception, Rogan argued, was necessary because Charlie in his final weeks was fighting the machine. He had felt deeply insecure, not about his faith, but about his finances and his independence. The rumors of financial dealings involving powerful figures were not rumors, they were chains. Charlie Kirk was realizing he was a prisoner of his own success. The powerful figures were demanding behind-the-scenes discussions about keeping the political stand safe, meaning rigid, polarizing, and profitable. Charlie, it is alleged, was beginning to refuse to adhere to the script. He was trying to pivot to a softer, broader, less inflammatory message. He was becoming a liability. The real storm was brewing right before it all came crashing down. The speed of the aftermath was the smoking gun, the security detail. She kept the same security from September 10th, suggesting the apparatus of power never missed a beat. The promotion. She skipped straight to CEO role before his body was even laid to rest. The commercialization. She was immediately selling t-shirts and is already hosting her husband's podcast. And the family erasure. She did 3 speeches while Charlie's parents were muted, unable to speak at their own son's memorial. And the dark whisper that always followed her. The detail the official narrative desperately wants you to ignore. The ties in Romania. While widely dismissed as smear campaigns, these rumors of alleged irregularities in her past charity work served a specific purpose in the narrative. They painted a portrait of a woman with a shadowed international history. A woman capable of the cold, calculated efficiency of a corporate agent.
If Rogan provided the theory, Candace Owens provided the alleged evidence. As a former insider, a close personal friend, and a former board member of the Empire, Owens was uniquely positioned to dismantle the official lie. She didn't just grieve, she launched a private, public counter-investigation. Her opening statement was a challenge to the entire conservative establishment. Charlie was assassinated, and the people who were threatening him reputationally and financially are now trying to memorialize him. This was an accusation of both complicity in his death and exploitation of his memory. The consequence? The FBI has not yet released or even acknowledged that footage exists. This isn't an accident. This is the state-level concealment of a truth that would expose the complexity of the operation. Owens continued, dismantling the profile of the accused killer. She claimed Robinson was advised by his family to come forward, not as a guilty man, but as a frightened kid seeking protection from a storm of crisis. She insisted on Robinson's innocence, arguing that his alleged confession was misinterpreted or even miscommunicated, coerced to fit the simplified, official story designed to shut down further inquiry. Her message to the unseen powers was a declaration of war. She was fueled by the fire of a grieving wife, not his, but her own, dedicating her life to exposing the conspirators. She meticulously detailed the evidentiary vacuum. The lack of a transparent timeline, surveillance footage, or witness testimony left a gaping, unfillable hole in the official narrative. For the online community, it was proof. The essential pieces of the puzzle were being deliberately withheld to ensure the success of the post-assassination regime. The focus now must return to Erica Kirk, the figure who became the ultimate high-stakes litmus test for the conspiracy. Was she a victim or a central figure in a much more complex web of power? The evidence once scrutinized suggests the latter. The suspicion became that she was strategically placed in Charlie Kirk's life by the shadowy forces that now controlled his organization. Her remarkable speech was the theatrical centerpiece of the entire operation. It was a masterpiece of controlled emotion, but for skeptics, it reeked of artifice. Her composure, her gestures, her breathing were all too perfect, as if the entire performance had been staged, rehearsed, and adjusted to perfection. A real widow, they argued, breaks. She weeps uncontrollably. She does not deliver a flawlessly modulated corporate address. The most crucial giveaway was the content itself. It focused almost exclusively on the organization, the message, and the mission. It barely mentioned Charlie's parents or personal life. This was not a eulogy for a husband. It was an inauguration speech for a new leader. Was she honoring Charlie's legacy, or was she taking control of it? The former was the lie, the latter, the chilling truth. Charlie, Rogan confirmed, was feeling bound by contracts, forced to accept commitments dictated by the deep-pocketed powers. His death was the mechanism by which those powers reasserted absolute control. The final layer of the conspiracy is financial. The ultimate confirmation of a coordinated, pre-planned takeover came from the alleged leaks regarding the Empire's financial backers. The report that a small group of major donors allegedly pressured the board to hand over the reins to Erica Kirk almost immediately proved the motive: corporate continuity. The image of Erica, with a confident, powerful gait and a fleeting, small smile, was dismissed as the PR campaign necessary to legitimize the coup. The most damning leak of all, the video allegedly showing Erica backstage rehearsing her speech. Why rehearse grief? Because this was a performance with $1 billion revenue stream at stake. Rogan's final word on the matter remains the truth. It was like the loss had been turned into a media product. The real evidence, the true indictment of the board and the powerful figures, was contained in the alleged text messages and emails. Let's take Erica public while the audience's empathy is still high. This is the brutal calculation. Grief is a perishable commodity. It had to be leveraged immediately to maximize the takeover's success. Erica understands the new direction. We just need to make sure the public understands. We'll call it a tribute to his legacy. The code word legacy framing confirms the conspiracy. The truth of Charlie Kirk's death was irrelevant. The goal was to craft a narrative that justified the new, profitable direction. Candace Owens, watching this unfold, declared with chilling certainty that the board acted too fast under pressure because they couldn't wait to get him out of the picture. The circulated photos of Erica with donors previously at odds with Charlie showed the power dynamic shifting. The empire was being quietly transferred behind the curtain of a public memorial. The most profound betrayal was the complete and immediate reversal of Charlie Kirk's final political philosophy. Charlie was allegedly trying to steer Turning Point America toward a more positive, less political direction. He wanted less vitriol, more hope, less division. Under Erica's new leadership, the opposite happened. Polarizing, rigid political messaging was amplified more than ever. The very donors he was trying to distance himself from was now back in control. His old speeches were edited, repurposed, and framed in memorial videos, their original context subtly twisted to fit the new direction Erica was taking. Erica, placed front and center, delivering the exact hyper-partisan message Charlie was trying to abandon, was the ultimate visual confirmation. This was a transfer of power, silent but too obvious to ignore. Charlie's name was now a valuable piece of corporate intellectual property, used to keep the machine running smoothly while the story of his passing was being rewritten. The quiet resignations of the board members who opposed Erica's promotion were the internal cleanup job, a purge dictated by pressure from big donors.
The entire controversy became a national debate on the sheer terrifying power of dark money. The investigation, driven by the public, focused on the ultimate power broker, Larry Ellison, the tech billionaire. The rumor, his foundation allegedly conditioned a large investment on the organization maintaining a consistent political orientation. This one fact, the direct link between ideology and a colossal financial mandate, placed the motive for the alleged assassination and corporate coup squarely in the lap of the global elite. Erica's calm, highly controlled television interview was the final insult. Her claim to continue his mission was viewed not as a vow, but as a defense of her brand, a defense Candace Owens ruthlessly attacked. Continuing his mission doesn't mean rewriting the truth. We now arrive at the most terrifying truth of this entire saga. Joe Rogan provided the key to understanding why the official story felt so messy, so contradictory, so impossible to pin down.
The consequence? The FBI has not yet released or even acknowledged that footage exists. This isn't an accident. This is the state-level concealment of a truth that would expose the complexity of the operation. Owens continued, dismantling the profile of the accused killer. She claimed Robinson was advised by his family to come forward, not as a guilty man, but as a frightened kid seeking protection from a storm of crisis. She insisted on Robinson's innocence, arguing that his alleged confession was misinterpreted or even miscommunicated, coerced to fit the simplified official story designed to shut down further inquiry.
If Rogan provided the theory, Candace Owens provided the alleged evidence. As a former insider, a close personal friend, and a former board member of the empire, Owens was uniquely positioned to dismantle the official lie. She didn't just grieve, she launched a private, public counter-investigation. Her opening statement was a challenge to the entire conservative establishment. Charlie was assassinated, and the people who were threatening him reputationally and financially are now trying to memorialize him. This was an accusation of both complicity in his death and exploitation of his memory. Rogan's principle of narrative control became a mantra. When an investigation is real, information stays private. When it's a show, everything leaks. The constant contradictory flow of information, the altered timeline, the highly suspect hug with President Trump, the internal emails was not accidental. It was strategic. It was a massive state-level misinformation campaign designed to control the narrative, but make the public believe it was transparency. The goal was simple, to create so much noise that the signal of truth was drowned out. The public would be perpetually confused, unable to ever assemble a single, clear, indictable reality. When every coincidence is so perfect, perhaps nothing is a coincidence. The ultimate human betrayal, the final piece of proof, remains the silence of the core family. Why did Charlie's parents disappear, while Erica Kirk was everywhere from memorials to interviews to major events? This silence, this forced vacuum confirmed the worst fears. The bloodline had been neutralized. The story of Charlie Kirk is not a tragedy. It is a terrifying masterclass in the nexus of politics, finance, and betrayal. A man's conscience conflicted with his funders. He became a liability. He was removed. And the ultimate betrayal was that the most intimate partner in his life allegedly participated in the subsequent corporate coup to secure the empire for the very powers he was trying to escape. The evidence is in the leaks. The pattern is in the orchestration. The betrayal is in the silence. The final question remains, is Joe Rogan a hero, risking everything to expose this dark reality? Or are the forces at play too powerful for any single voice to overcome? The story of Charlie Kirk's death and the speculation that followed became one of the most revealing case studies in how modern conspiracies are built. In the hours after the first official statement, entire communities across X, Reddit, and Telegram began treating every discrepancy, every rumor, every screenshot as potential proof of a larger plot. The emotional shock of losing a polarizing public figure created the perfect climate for alternate explanations to flourish. Where the official narrative seemed restrained and bureaucratic, the online counter-narrative offered drama, betrayal, and motive. Ingredients that keep audiences hooked. Digital investigators began dissecting Erica Kirk's demeanor in her first interviews. They clipped 3-second pauses, cataloged her body language, and compared it to databases of authentic grief performances. Out-of-context frames were posted and reposted thousands of times, each captioned with a question mark. These fragments were then woven into longer YouTube essays claiming to decode the hidden truth. What started as emotional curiosity hardened into ideological conviction, a belief that every institutional message must be a lie, and that true reality lives only in the shadows of the internet. Analysts who study digital misinformation note that this cycle always follows the same rhythm. A tragedy sparks uncertainty, uncertainty invites speculation, speculation becomes entertainment. Influencers like Joe Rogan or Candace Owens become gravitational centers, not because they supply verified facts, but because they provide structure, a narrative that feels complete when official reports feel incomplete. Each time Rogan mused that everything seemed strangely orchestrated, social media filled in the blanks with its own screenplay. Candace Owens' comments amplified the dynamic further. As a former insider, she possessed credibility in the eyes of her audience. And when she questioned the official investigation, her words migrated instantly across thousands of podcasts and short-form videos. Within hours, her questions had evolved online into full-blown claims that reference non-existing documents or distorted screenshots from unrelated sources. None of that stopped the story's momentum. The emotional appeal was simply stronger than the factual checks that followed days later. Behind every viral conspiracy is an incentive structure. Each upload, each repost, each breathless update generates engagement, and engagement translates into revenue or political leverage. Researchers from several universities have described this phenomenon as grief monetization, the conversion of collective uncertainty into clicks, views, and donations.
The more dramatic the story, the better it performs. In this case, the theory that Eric and Kirk has somehow orchestrated a corporate coup overshadowed mundane explanations about nonprofit governance or public relations management. When commentators revisited the timeline, they found that many of the details driving the suspicion, such as rehearsal footage, supposed tax leaks, or donor blacklists, originated from anonymous accounts that appeared and disappeared within weeks. No verifiable metadata, no consistent sourcing. Yet those fragments persisted because they met the emotional need of audiences who distrusted institutions but still craved certainty. It was easier to believe in a calculated plot than in randomness. Sociologists point out that this phenomenon has become the dominant storytelling mode of modern politics. The boundary between investigative journalism, commentary, and conspiracy has dissolved. Audiences navigate a blur of screenshots and sound bites, assembling personal versions of the truth. The result isn't just confusion. It's a new kind of folklore, digital folklore, where real people become symbols in an ongoing morality play about corruption and control. In the months after Charlie Kirk's death, this digital folklore hardened into separate realities. On one side, mainstream outlets repeated the verified timeline. On the other, networks of independent creators kept re-examining the same 10 seconds of footage, insisting that something didn't add up. Each camp accused the other of manipulation. The divide itself became the story. The most striking irony is that in trying to expose alleged information control, the online community often reenacted it. Selective editing, emotional framing, and algorithmic amplification produced a tightly managed experience, only it was managed by crowd psychology instead of a boardroom. For researchers of media ecosystems, the Kirk case is now cited as a model of how digital suspicion can outpace factual reality within days. Whether Joe Rogan and Candace Owens were acting as skeptics, fulfilling a civic duty, or simply as performers caught in the economics of outrage is a question that remains open. What's clear is that both became nodes in a feedback loop larger than any individual. The speculation surrounding Erica Kirk's motives, the supposed Romanian ties, and the financial conspiracies were less about the individuals themselves and more about the collective hunger for narrative justice in an era of distrust. The lasting lesson is uncomfortable but vital. When information feels orchestrated, the human instinct is to build counter-orchestrations, to create an alternative script that restores agency to the believer. Yet each layer of that counter-script pulls us further from verifiable truth. Charlie Kirk's story, real or imagined, demonstrates how quickly grief becomes content, and content becomes ideology.
In the weeks that followed, the online speculation hardened into distinct digital tribes. Each tribe created its own evidence archive, logo, and slogan. One group called itself Justice for Charlie, another the Legacy Truthers. They built spreadsheets, Discord servers, and interactive maps tracing donations and travel itineraries. None of this produced new verifiable data, but it produced belonging, a powerful emotional currency in a fractured media landscape. Mainstream outlets faced the dilemma. Ignoring the conspiracy entirely risked accusations of complicity. Addressing it risked amplifying it. The result was a hesitant half coverage. Short fact-checking segments aired late at night or embedded in print articles under cautious headlines like "Questions swirl online about Kirk investigation." For digital audiences, these articles became proof of suppression rather than clarification. Each debunking triggered another round of "Why are they trying so hard to hide it?" Social media platforms entered the cycle next. Content moderation teams attempted to downrank or label speculative posts. The algorithms are blunt instruments. They can detect keywords, not context. A user quoting the rumor to debunk it would be flagged the same way as someone promoting it. Within days, screenshots of removed videos were being posted with captions like, "They're censoring us." The myth of erasure became more persuasive than the rumor itself. Digital anthropologists studying these networks noticed something remarkable. The conspiratorial community began to self-organize with corporate efficiency. There were research leads, archivists, and outreach teams. They mirrored the institutional structure they claimed to oppose. The irony was complete. Distrust and organized power had produced a parallel structure of its own. Meanwhile, traditional journalists found themselves outpaced. By the time investigative outlets published verified timelines, flight records, financial disclosures, hospital reports, the digital conversation had moved on to new plot lines, secret meetings, encrypted emails, supposed ghostwriters of Erica Kirk's speeches. In an environment where virality equals validity, verification simply moved too slowly to matter. The logic question became, why do these stories stick? Psychologists point to a phenomenon known as narrative foreclosure. When official information arrives late or feels incomplete, audiences fill the gap with whatever story provides emotional closure. Once that closure is achieved, contradictory facts rarely dislodge it. The mind prefers coherence to accuracy. In this sense, the Kirk conspiracy was not an aberration, but a mirror held up to modern information culture. It exposed how every platform, from mainstream newsrooms to independent creators, operates within a shared economy of attention. Outrage, not evidence, is the most valuable commodity. The sharper the emotion, the higher the click-through rate, the better the algorithmic reward. By month 3, the original questions about what happened to Charlie have been replaced by meta-questions. Who controls information? Who decides what counts as truth? Influencers release hour-long monologues dissecting not the death itself, but the media's response to it. The narrative have folded in on itself, transforming from a story about a man into a story about perception. At this stage, media scholars began labeling it the Kirk feedback loop. The loop followed 4 predictable beats. A tragedy creates uncertainty. Online communities generate alternative explanations. Mainstream corrections amplify distrust. The debate over credibility becomes the new content. Once established, the loop sustains itself indefinitely. Each new detail, no matter how small, feeds both sides. Where Erica Kirk made a low-profile public appearance months later, the footage became viral again, not for what she said, but for how viewers interpreted every gesture. One faction saw grief, another saw calculation. The truth was irrelevant. The engagement numbers were astronomical. Even policymakers took notice. Parliamentarian committees in the UK and congressional panels in the US cited the case Inherence on Misinformation, describing it as a textbook demonstration of algorithmic amplification in emotionally charged events. Researchers testified that misinformation doesn't spread because people are ignorant. It spreads because it's narratively satisfying. It makes chaos feel structured. By the 1-year mark, the frenzy had cooled but not vanished. The online archives remained, half abandoned, yet still drawing curious visitors. For some, the story had evolved into a belief system, a worldview in which every institution hides a darker truth. For others, it had become a cautionary tale about how easily empathy can be engineered into content. Looking back, the most unsettling insight is that everyone involved, mainstream reporters, podcasters, amateur sleuths, grieving supporters, believed they were serving truth. The ecosystem rewarded their conviction equally, regardless of accuracy. The battle was never between truth and lies, but between competing performances of sincerity.